Just want to say before we start this episode, just want to give a bit of a content/trigger warning that we will be talking about a film that includes sexual violence and revenge porn. So if it's not quite the one that you want to be listening to or watching, then please click away. We've got plenty of other nice episodes for you to listen to. So yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Frank Film Club. This week, we are talking about Femme, which I'm very excited to talk about. It is a neo-noir film that follows Jules, who's targeted in a horrific homophobic attack, destroying his life and career. Sometime after the event, he encounters Preston, one of his attackers, in a gay sauna, and he wants revenge. Film was written and directed by Sam H. Freeman and Choon and stars Nathan Stewart-Jarrett and George MacKay. It's available to watch on Netflix. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the filmmakers, where they've come from, how they came to making this film from short to feature, about the intimacy scenes, and also the reception of the film critically and publicly. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But first of all, how are you both doing?
Well, I'm okay now. I haven't been okay.
Oh no.
I've been solo parenting, as you both know, for 10 days. And it's been really, really hard. And I've learned so much. And I'm just so grateful for my amazing boyfriend, who really is a lot better at parenting than me. In different ways.
Oh my God.
But it's been really, really hard. And I'm just really glad he's back. And I have so much respect for people who do this by themselves.
Yeah.
And it's just made me look at certain people very differently in my life. It's amazing that people do it by themselves.
Yeah. Oh, fair play to you though, Han.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm out the other end.
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready to
survive.
Yeah, I'm alive. I'm ready to.
And so's Daisy.
I mean,
Most importantly.
yeah, so I'm good today. But if we had, well, I wouldn't have been able to do this any other day in the last 10 days. But it was a very different picture. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
Yeah. Hey.
The light's back in your eyes.
Oh, it is.
So, had a really big life update this week.
Oh my God.
I captured a spider and put it outside on my own in my house. Okay, I'm like huge arachnophobic, have been since I was a kid, and I have always wanted to get over it because it affects my day-to-day life. I don't go in certain rooms because I'm worried I'm going to see a spider. There's been 2 this week. One that was on my curtain that I captured and got out the window, and then one that was on my kitchen floor that I put a cup over and then put it out the thing. Yeah, because I didn't want to kill them. I didn't want to suck them on the Hoover. I didn't want to do any of that thing. I wanted to put it outside. Like, I don't believe in just like squishing them.
No.
I think that's cruel. And it's not the spider's fault. It's my fault for being scared of them. So I was like, I just want to get over it. One day I have an ambition to like hold a tarantula, just like to really be like the phobia is gone. So I was like, I've got to do it. I can't go to sleep.
You'd be a great Spider-Man. The next Spider-Man.
Yeah, the next spider. Hello.
Yeah.
Spider
Ultimate
woman.
fear, yeah.
I would
Tackled.
do it. Tom Holland, watch it back. I'm coming for your gig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thanks. How have
That
you
is
been?
absolutely great news. I'm great, thanks. We've been busy.
Oh, she's been a busy girl.
Oh, she
With,
has. You have both.
Yeah. In prep of our first feature.
Yeah.
So it's
It's in development. Now it's in prep.
it's in prep.
We're
So,
moving.
Yeah.
So
It's
exciting.
been quite mad, but good.
And how are you coping? Because it is a bit mental in prep for
It is.
producers, isn't it?
Yeah. It is absolutely mental. Feel like some days it's like, oh no, we're good. We've like got it. We're sorted. We're fine. And then the next day it's like, oh my God, we need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. It's a real roller coaster right now. But we're here for the ride.
It's really great that you've got each other to weather those storms, though, because solitary panics are the worst. But when you've got somebody to talk through it with, it's like much better.
And we have a bunch of other producers as well that we're working with, so it's great. But even just between the two of us, it's so nice to be that, like, you know, you break off in smaller and smaller and smaller groups.
Debrief.
And, and
Yeah.
just be
like,
those little panics that you're like, I don't want to bring it to the whole team. It's like nice to be able to be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, ladies,
Yeah.
I've been really excited to talk about this for ages. I hadn't seen the film when I said let's do it, but I just heard many things, and so I don't know if you two had seen it before as well. But you had.
I'd seen it on the BAFTA viewer when we got sent a bunch of films on there. So that was one that I made sure that I watched before it expired, and then it went on Netflix anyway.
Cool. Okay. Well, what were your first thoughts then? What did you think?
I had heard amazing things about this movie, and I love the actors, and I just knew it was gonna be like the neo-noirness. I just it's quite my thing, you know. But I sat down to watch it, and I just I feel like I just wasn't after the spider. I just wasn't in the mood for sexual violence, you know. I thought I've had enough this week, so I really couldn't. It was like the sounds were just really ringing throughout my head, and I felt like I was just really crawling out of my skin, and I couldn't just sit and watch the movie. I was just getting really worked up. And so I stopped and was like, I'm not going to do this right now. And I'm so glad that I did, because after this was more in the working day. And then after the working day, I had some food and I had a drink, and I was sitting on the sofa, and I had wound down. And then I watched it and was just glued to the screen for the next, I don't know, 2 hours, however long it is. Really, really an incredible movie. So powerful, so important. And I'm glad that I could give it the time to witness all of that, rather than just feeling really offended, because I think content like this is so important, and it's just really well done. So,
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I loved it when I first watched it. I really didn't know what was going to happen next. I think the suspense is done really well. The performances were amazing. I preferred it on the second viewing though, which is interesting, because sometimes when you watch a film like this, because you don't know where it's going to go, that's what's a thrilling viewing experience for it. But I felt like I could really appreciate the performances the second time, and what they were both doing, and how they both work together. And yeah, I just think it's a really well done, suspenseful, something that I haven't really seen before as well, like these types of characters in this type of context in a genre. So it was great.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. And I think the last thing there about those types of characters being in this kind of genre film, because I think that was what Sam and Ping were trying to do. That was the initial where it came from, that they love that kind of thrillery genre, but they're both two gay men, and they hadn't really seen characters like that in that space. So that's where it all kind of started. Yeah, which I think is cool, and it's so true. It's not really seen before.
Yeah.
So exciting to see it happen. But yeah, so Sam and Ping both come from drama backgrounds, and actually a lot of theatre directing.
Ooh.
Sam had done, he'd written on one episode of Industry as well, but other than that, they hadn't got any screen experience.
Yeah. Wow. God.
Yeah.
God, they
amazing.
strike me more if you had said commercial background, it would have made more sense to me than theatre background.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, I'm just, it's quite amazing, because it's very cinematic for it to be from theatre background.
Yeah, so they didn't have any of that screen experience, and so but had this idea that they really wanted to bring to life. And then obviously it's so hard to go ahead and make. They had the feature idea straight away, and it's obviously so hard to go and get feature funding. Never mind if you have never done anything in film before. So they went to Agile, who they had an existing relationship with, Sam Ritzenberg and Miles Payne from there. And they were like, this is a really cool idea for the feature, but it's not going to happen if you haven't ever done anything in film before. And so they actually put up £30,000 for them to make
Agile.
a proof of concept. Yeah, make a proof of concept short, which was then produced by Sam Ritzenberg and Hayley Williams, who we know, she's a Williams, so of course
We know her.
We know her.
She's Welsh, we know her.
from North Wales.
She's a producer, we know her.
But that short starred Papa Essiedu and Harris Dickinson, which is already like a stellar cast.
Stellar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And yeah, so they made that. Apparently in the short, it was actually originally meant to be more focused on the Jules character, who actually was by the name Jordan in the short. But then when they actually got to shooting it, I think the chemistry between them both just meant that it felt like Harris Dickinson's character really just like took on its own storyline more than they had intended, and then they rolled with that in the feature, obviously.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. A couple of questions for you. Did they go to Agile with a full feature script?
I don't think they had a script. I think they just had
the treatment,
a pitch.
A pitch.
Yeah, I think.
And then the story of the short film, how does that differ to the feature?
Actually, I haven't seen the short film. I can't really say.
I want to watch that so bad.
Yeah, and I've got a bit of a fun fact about the short film. Or actually, no, it's a question. Guess who was meant to shoot it?
As in, meant to Molly Manning Walker.
Yeah, which is cool. How to Have Sex director for people who don't know. But she was in contact with somebody who had COVID. It was all during COVID. I think this was made. She was in contact with somebody with COVID the day before the shoot. The day before the shoot, she had to say, "I can't do it because everybody will be at risk." So she put forward somebody that she trusts, James Rhodes. She was like, "This is the only person I would entrust to do this and to take it on so last minute." And so he came and shot the short, and like just on the day, every day was like, would see the location for the first time and be like, "Okay, like this is what we can like," and just like figured it out.
Wow.
And he ended up shooting the
I was gonna
feature.
say, cool.
Yeah, which is really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I feel like Agile are doing that a lot with shorts to features.
That's really cool because I don't think many production companies are doing that and putting money into proof of concepts to then do the features, and it's so valuable.
It's so important. I think that we keep seeing these unbelievable debut features, and it's really hard for someone to make their debut feature because because they don't have a proof of concept, and obviously it's harder to raise money when you have no idea what someone's style is. So for people to be like really bridging that gap, it's such a powerful position to put them, because these filmmakers will want to work with Agile forever. I feel like the rhythm of the two actors, and like who's to say what's directing and what's their natural chemistry or whatever, but I just found the space like in between their dialogue to be as powerful as like everything that they were saying. And I think that sometimes I get the note a lot when, maybe it's different in television because, moving at a pace, but it's like, it's hard sometimes to find a director who is happy to sort of like sit in a scene. Like it's usually like, let's pace it, let's move it, let's keep it moving, which is a great note most of the time. But there was just like something so powerful about this film that still had that space in the rhythm, but was like so engaging with that. And I feel like that's such an art in theatre, because people can get bored real quick in theatre.
Yep.
So yeah, how do you build tension, create space with a live audience? Like I just feel like maybe they've just like cracked that in a way.
That's so interesting that you picked up on that, because I heard a chat from Sam and Ping saying that they really like to focus on showing the story, and only using dialogue when they have to get the point across even more. Yeah. So like exactly that. But I would have thought that in theatre, like I don't love, a lot of the time I don't love theatre, because I think I don't like how much it does rely on dialogue, and I find it a bit much. So that's really, I find it so impressive that they don't rely on dialogue hardly at all to tell the story.
Yeah. I feel like because the nature of the characters and the story, they're both holding something back. So we're like, as you say, like so much is said in what is not said for us as an audience, probably not for them. Well, maybe for them in between. I would love to like interrogate that more, like what theatre. Did they write this as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. What writing for theatre and how they've translated that and what the differences are and what the similarities are.
Yeah, I feel like their worlds that these two actors have fleshed out for their characters are like so present in all the silences, and I just like loved that as a. Sometimes I hate that when I can like see that someone's like acting. Not that it's that necessarily, but you can just feel all of their backstory.
The weight of everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wonder if the reason that it works in this is because the point kind of is with Preston's character. I'm thinking George Mackay's character is that he is acting and he is putting on this persona.
Yeah,
right.
And so is
Yeah, they both
Jules.
are. Yeah. And that's something that the director said. They're like, actually, there's multiple characters in this film that are in drag. Preston being one of them. He's more like a drag king. And it's so true. He's like really putting on the masculinity.
God, you're right.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why it feels like it works.
Well, it works. Yeah, totally. Because I think it is like that when you're speaking to someone who's really forcing something that's like inauthentic in a way. There's like this sort of anxious feeling that you get where you can just see it written all over their face, and they're trying to be like this is who I am. And the more that they do it, I find myself just being like, what are you like hiding in there? And as an actor, that's what you're doing, but you're trying to do it convincingly. But in this, like, you can just let it all of the fakery of it just come forward.
God,
Really
wow,
powerful.
what an interesting exercise.
Yeah. It's like double bluffing.
Well, my favourite thing about this whole film is when Jules' character starts playing this masculine. I just like it just takes a turn for me in terms of his performance. I'm like that is incredible that you've gone from, because it's I don't know, it's just really well done.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so what did you think about the story and about it kind of becoming like it kind of becomes about both of these characters, especially by the end. Like how did you feel about that? Did you like that it was kind of this double storyline, double like protagonist, I suppose?
Yeah, a two-hander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that. I really enjoyed it because I think George is like a revelation, and it made that character so three-dimensional that you then really do start to reflect on the world in a different way, rather than it feeling like a story that you know the ending to. It felt like I was, it was just like having this like grace for someone that I felt like from the beginning was like solely a villain. And then all of a sudden I like had these feelings of like empathy, and like it was just, I don't know, it's just like, just really powerful. Like, I think all of the big divides in the world is like when we don't look at someone else's perspective. And I think, you know, in cinema, it's a really dangerous line to tread because, you know, you never know how people are receiving content. But I think in this particular movie, it becomes like just very real, very authentic and very raw. For the characters on both sides of this like horrific attack, and
it's complicated.
Sexual revenge as well.
Yeah, it's complicated, and that's, you know, what a lot of situations are complicated, and I think it's really interesting to see the humanity in somebody who feels inherently like an awful person. And I do wonder, I haven't really looked much into the press around this. Was there any critique about this being, you know, why are we showing humanity for somebody who is involved in who perpetrates such a horrific attack?
Yeah.
I don't think there's been loads of it, but on some of like the reviews on like Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes and places like that, there has been a bit of conversation about that and like, ooh, like, is this actually what we want to do? But I think the way that it's kind of like the film has like saved itself is that it's still quite open to interpretation. Like, does Jules actually like him, or is it purely revenge? I actually am not clear on that, and I think it is kind of I think that was the intention, that it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
And I think that's because it's quite open-ended, and I want to kind of know how you feel about the quite open end as well. I think it has meant that it's kind of got away with it. If people did think that it was a bad thing.
Yeah. I feel like I was left feeling like I was affirmed of things I already knew to be true, and then I was also reminded of things that I like ignore or something. And I like the open-endedness. I guess I haven't really like reflected on what I feel it means, but I did feel throughout the movie like Jules flip-flopped back and forth on like what was like vulnerable emotion and what was like playing an act. So
Yeah.
I think I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
When things are not clear. I say that I like go back and forth. Some movies I'm like, it's not clear enough. I need to know who the enemy is. And then on other films I'm like, it's just so nuanced, and I really admire the filmmakers' ability.
But I think that we say that when the characters aren't clear. I think these characters feel clear.
Very clear.
But the story is up for interpretation, not the
True,
characters.
true.
So maybe that's what it is.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reception of the film, it went to Berlinale, but it actually didn't go to that many other festivals, which I found interesting. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that, and if, like, do you think that's because of the genre, or do you think there's actually, like, some things that you could critique in this film as to why it didn't go to, potentially why it wouldn't have gone to many festivals?
No, I can't think of anything why it wouldn't go to more festivals.
I mean, if I was going to have a pessimistic view, it would be because, like, I think that as a consciousness, we are, like, more accepting of some queerness, but not, like, stories like this, I feel, or something. I don't know, that are, like, quite confronting.
Yeah.
That if I was going to be like pessimistic, because like I feel like there's like a version of like a gay love story where like someone's coming out and it's like, and you know what I mean, like that we're all just like, this is amazing, this is the greatest thing ever, and then there's something like this that's just like very, very vulnerable and very real and very authentic, that is a bit like
Yeah.
I feel like, because I think this is like incredible indie filmmaking. I think this is like an incredible directorial debut. I think these actors are unbelievable. I think the performances are just like mesmerizing. The writing's incredible. The story itself. Like I really loved this film. So what, like, I know I don't speak on behalf of every film festival everywhere, but it doesn't really make sense to me that it didn't like really sweep up in a way.
Yeah.
Like go everywhere.
Yeah.
It's good it's on Netflix now, though.
Yeah, it's really good. It's on Netflix. Yeah, I'd be interested to know how it's doing on there.
It'd be interesting to know how many people watch this. This is like I feel like this is like a gem that people will find on Netflix, but it's probably not a mainstream film that people are going to watch.
Yeah, what I found really surprising is that when I clicked on it, it said 63% match for me. And I was like, that's weird. This feels like it would be a 90-something% match for me. But maybe I've been watching too much, like, Love is Blind.
Or I wonder what it's matching itself to. Like I wonder how Netflix are
categorizing
it.
Algorithm and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that off. I did actually have a bit of critique.
Okay. Spill.
If you want to know
I'd
my critique thoughts. And I will say that I do love this film before my critiques as well. But I thought that there were times where I wondered if it was a little bit repetitive when Nathan's character Jules would like re-look at revenge porn again and then again and then again, and I thought that bit specifically, I was like, okay, I think we understand what your thought process is here and what you're getting at.
We don't need to be reminded.
If you're just trying to remind us, don't worry, we've remembered. You made a point at the start. And I just thought that was a little bit repetitive.
Yeah, you're right. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it did also, at the same time, like it did like really build tension. And so maybe it was used more for that rather than trying to remind us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wondered if there was, there was a few bits I was like, is this a bit repetitive? And then it is quite, it's kind of long.
Some of those like filmmaking techniques are maybe slightly formulaic.
Yeah.
But I would say that about a lot of films.
Of that genre?
No, just like first time filmmakers. It's like, there's something about it where you're like, I feel like you're referencing a cool film that you've seen where it does this thing where it cuts really quickly between, you know what I mean? It's just like how we've seen that a lot. And it's fine because it's great and it does build tension. But yeah, it's like, you know, something that is like, it's like happening quite a lot at the moment. You know what I mean? That sort of editing, that sort of like, yeah.
I wonder if it's there as like a...
It's like, do you know what it is? It's like maybe it's like Euphoria. It's like the Euphoria-pilled world of filmmaking, kind of. I do. You know, that was like so, like the blue lights, the pink lights, the makeup, like it was like on mainstream television and it was like, you know, people, these aren't new techniques, but it was just like, it brought a whole new aesthetic to the world of cinema. And I feel like sometimes, like when you've just said that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, it's a technique to tell a story, but it's not new, but it's fine because it works. But it's like, you know, it's just like, a bit like, I want to say clickbait. No one's clicking.
Yeah.
We ain't on YouTube. But it's that sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is going to like be good.
Yeah. Or I wonder how much the execs also, like the financiers might have also like had a say in that and been like...
Notes of like,
for the...
make it clearer, make it clearer.
Yeah, if they want it to live on a place like Netflix where it's maybe more easy watching usually.
Maybe... in talking about him watching the porn again, right? We're still talking about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I was just talking about how it was edited back and forth.
Yeah. Maybe it's there to maybe not show the audience, but to remind Jules what his mission is, rather than him like, because he's getting carried away.
Stop falling in love.
Stop it. Stop that. Maybe
and
it's
actually, you know, now you've said that, that does make me think, if they didn't include that throughout, we as the audience might just be like, oh, he's just fully fallen for him. And maybe as much as we know that that's how it started off, that it was going to be revenge. Maybe that, like what we were saying earlier, that it's kind of ended up being open-ended. If they hadn't kept popping that in, maybe it wouldn't be so open-ended because we'd just be like, oh, they're in love.
You're right.
Yeah.
Maybe. Although then there is the end scene where Jules as Aphrodite does that whole outing. So we do still get that. Anyway.
What other ways do you think that they could have shown that turmoil for Jules?
A more realistic,
right,
in real life, what you would do. I don't think if you were going through this process, you wouldn't keep going back to the porn for ideas or like for a reminder. You'd probably get so obsessed with the person, so maybe you'd be stalking him a little bit more, but then that's going to look like you're obsessed with him and not obsessed with what you're doing.
Maybe like if he went back to the scene of the crime, of the hate crime at the beginning, maybe he went back to the shop and was like looking for him in some way, or like, I don't know. Yeah. This is just like, this is
we're
taking
riffing.
us. Yeah, we're riffing.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I feel like we've, in a way, kind of figured out why they had to, why they did do it. Yeah. Which I love. I love when we do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another critique.
Oh,
Tell
go on.
Us. Spell. So the end where Aphrodite is telling that story, stage presence, incredible, brilliant performance. The opening of this film, I was not hit with I think it could have been a bit more impactful.
Oh, really? The stage presence there?
Of the Aphrodite at the beginning, because I think it could have set us up a little bit better. We're also used to seeing such incredible drag performances now, and I think it fell a little bit flat of what I would have hoped for that scene. And I was thinking, oh, maybe Nathan Stewart-Jarrett isn't comfortable in that realm, but then obviously we see that scene at the end, and Aphrodite, she is such a great performer in that. So I remember thinking both times I watched this, God, I wish they had done something really explosive.
Yeah.
To show,
Interesting.
yeah.
I actually didn't feel that. I loved the opening.
I got what it was saying, but is that because it was like presented in the way where it's like the setup of like a character, that I was like, oh, they're great at their job, and now, oh, they're sitting on the sofa and they're not going to work or not going out. But was I impacted where I was like missing Aphrodite? No.
Right, yeah.
Girls,
I just wanted
you're
to
really
see-
making me like this film less.
Oh, no.
You're saying things and I'm like, oh God, you're right. Yeah, that wasn't wicked, that bit.
But I still thought it was amazing.
No.
But my problem is, like, I wanted Nathan Stewart-Jarrett to be doing death drops.
Yeah.
I wanted the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
I wanted more performance in the background, and I wanted choreography.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what I wanted.
I feel you.
And
Yeah,
that's not
alright.
a critique of the film overall. It's just a expectation that I have for drag performances now, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that is so like
Yeah.
too much, perhaps.
Yeah.
I want too much.
No,
got high standards.
Yeah,
I do.
you will have the world.
Remember when we did auditions? The first time we worked together, we did auditions, and that girl came in and did a death drop, and she was about 8.
Yeah, oh my God.
I cannot remember that for the life
Yeah,
of
she
me.
fully death dropped for
Yeah,
us,
she
and we were
fully
like,
death dropped. We were like, your parents not in this room. We cannot be held responsible for your knee breaking.
So, yeah, mixed reception on the festival run.
Yeah.
But it did really well at the Biffers.
Yes.
Which is fab. And it also got a BAFTA long list. George got a BAFTA long list.
Oh, okay.
But I think that was it on the BAFTA long listing.
yeah, it's surprising to me, but fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's a very Biffa film. I can understand why it's Biffa, not BAFTA in a way.
Yeah. So I actually don't know what the budget was, but box office, worldwide gross was £91,000.
Opening weekend?
No, that's actually
Ooh.
all over.
Well, but
Was
then
it in the cinema?
maybe just for
Well, I
a
don't-
second, and then that's what
'Cause it's
Netflix do.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it must have been that.
Maybe they bought it at Berlin.
And then it just did
then
a little day.
For the
just
Fast
for-
for the
for
awards.
awards.
Yeah, I think so, because that seems mad low. Also, there was another film we were talking about recently, and I think it was similar thing. What was it? Oh, Naiad, which was also Netflix.
Netflix, yeah,
There we
coming
have
up. And a few episodes ago, we spoke about Maestro.
Yeah,
Yes, and that would be the same.
The same.
similar. Yeah. So on Netflix, and like I said before, I don't really know how it's doing there, but I've heard so many good things, so I feel like it's doing well. I hope.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you some Letterboxd reviews.
Yeah.
Our fave. Okay, so Shook One gave it 4.5 stars and said, strong thriller on identity and internalized homophobia that never loses the focus of his two protagonists and their inner worlds, despite having a suspenseful story arc as framework. Stewart-Jarrett and MacKay bailing out and out. One of the best entries of queer cinema I've seen in a long time.
Oh, great.
So excellent review there.
Great.
Maggie gave it 4 stars and said, love George MacKay sitting in the booth at the club looking like Jasper Cullen as if he was a roadman.
Who's that?
From Twilight.
I thought we had got rid of Twilight.
No, Alice's boyfriend. Remember Alice,
Yeah.
who walks along the like tree and then jumps into the kitchen? Hi, Bella.
And her boyfriend's always like,
Okay.
looks a bit like stuck. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
And to be honest, that is what she's got a point.
Yeah, that's
Maggie.
true.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Edgard 713 gave it 3 stars, and it's quite a long I'm just going to give you a bit of this review.
Paraphrase.
Yeah. So a movie baiting you into thinking that it's about a black queer man avenging himself for a gay bashing incident, when in reality, it's more concerned with the white abuser's internalized homophobia. So that kind of is like a bit of like the comments you were asking about before. Has that been a thought with audiences? So it definitely has. This review does then go on to kind of be like, I get it though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a thought on people's minds.
I think the thing is, though, it's not like George, and this is from my own perspective, and I don't have lived experience of, the Jules's character in a lot of ways, but it shows Preston and his background, but that doesn't overtake Jules's story. It's not like we then switch and we learn all about Preston. It's still about the two of them together, right?
Yeah.
So, but it is, it could that's a really difficult line to dance.
Like I do think it is still more Jules's story.
I think so.
As much as it has been said, that it's a Jules thing.
I think this could also be like, I just think that George MacKay is like so good that it's like, it's really hard to not just, it's like, actually, George, it was really selfish of you to be that good in this movie because now people are really starting to identify, or like not identify, but just like, connect with your character.
Do you think it's actually quite strange that people are saying it's two protagonists? Because actually, no, George is the antagonist through and through.
Yeah.
Or Preston.
Yeah.
So actually, maybe I actually just disagree with the fact that they're saying it's two protagonists. It's not
two. Yeah, there's a protagonist and an antagonist.
And maybe that is actually taking it away from Jules's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's the label that's incorrect.
Yeah, let's
not
delete
movie.
that.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, well.
Because if you watch like a normal revenge movie, the person who's taking revenge is always the protagonist. They're never the... Right?
Yeah, usually, yeah. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit not good to be doing that.
Yeah, I love it when people do that. Because I do think it pushes us closer to like understanding the world. I mean, not that I can force everyone who has internalized homophobia to watch this movie and like know that they're going to come out the other side of it reflecting on themselves. But I just think as a way of acknowledging like the dark parts of the world, I really do appreciate when, I mean, we did Zone of Interest, It's not sympathizing, but it is showing how people get to that way. And I just think that's powerful.
Yeah, me too.
But I can sit here in my comfortable, privileged, like, corner of the world as, like, a white woman and be like, I just think it's so interesting. Like, obviously, I'm not affected by any of this shit. So, of course, I can just sit there and be like, this is interesting. But if you're emotionally affected by these topics, then I'm sure you would have a different opinion. And just because I think it doesn't make it true or a fact.
Very good.
Well, so next I actually couldn't find what the filmmakers are doing next, Sam and Ping, but I do know that they have an open relationship, a creative relationship, so they don't necessarily have to do all their things together. And they said that we will do some things together, some things separately.
Love that.
Very healthy.
Yeah.
Nathan Stewart-Jarrett is in a film that's just done well at South by Southwest, a horror film called Azrael by E.L. Katz, and also Culprits. Have you guys seen Culprits?
Nope.
No.
Okay, nor have I. So we should watch a TV show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then George MacKay is in a new film called The Beast by Bertrand Bonello, which he is co-starring with Lea Seydoux.
Great.
Which is cool. What a combo.
Oh my goodness.
Love.
And then George is also going to soon be in a film that we are producing. Which is really exciting. That's what we're working on. And so watch this space.
Yeah.
And if you think you've seen George do fantastic things, which, you know, we've touched upon in this film, he's a proper chameleon, but I'm so excited to see him in your film because what a role for an actor.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Really excited.
We're buzzing.
All right then, gals. What are your final thoughts on Femme?
Final thoughts are that I just love speaking to you both about films because we really figure out our thoughts, which is, I'm sure, the whole reason why we're doing this. But I really enjoyed speaking about this film. I think that what you said there towards the end is really important for us to remember, you know, that we're three women and we've done this before with like the Iron Claw and like toxic masculinity, and this is all our interpretation, but obviously it's going to affect different people in different ways. And for me, this film is really well done in the genre that it's in, but really interesting to see these types of characters which feel really complicated and layered and just were amazing to watch with their chemistry. So it was great to see them in this genre. I will definitely watch this again, and I'm glad that it's on Netflix and that hopefully it's going to be seen by a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have picked this out to go to at the cinema.
Yeah. More convenient on the sofa. My final thoughts on this movie. I mean, I love this movie, but it's been really interesting hearing you both have your critiques, because I think it's pushing me to understand the things that I don't mind, like the flaws that I don't mind, and understand the things that I can look out for to make better in like movies that we make or movies that I'm acting in or so on and so forth. Because I think sometimes things wash over me and sometimes things don't. But on the times when they don't and there's something that you guys pull up on, I think it's so interesting to then go back on your own vision of a movie and like re-reflect rather than just taking it at face value. Mostly because that's our job and that's like what we're supposed to do. So this one's been a really interesting movie for that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Oh, well, thanks very much, girls. Cool. And thank you so much to our listeners as well. If you want to let us know your thoughts, please do share. We love hearing all your thoughts. You can email us on filmclub@wrapped.world or follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Frank Film Club. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe, or on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, just give us a follow and like or whatever you can do on there. Wow. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
This podcast was presented by Wrapped.